Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our throwback review of the Plantronics Pulsar 590A. This is one of the earliest Bluetooth headsets that we saw here at OS Reviews, and this was back in 2004-2005, and it sold at a hefty $250. Plantronics combined their expertise with making Bluetooth earpieces with a fully functional stereo headset for listening to music wirelessly, although you could also plug in an adapter and use it as a traditional 3.5mm headset. It also came with a stand and also a funky looking charger which has a almost 2-meter long cable length, which was quite impressive, and the device could be operated even when it was being charged. The charging tips were also proprietary and had this interesting look that you need to plug into either side of the headset, something that is been replaced by micro USB connectors today. Otherwise, taking a quick look at the design of the Pulsar 590A, you'll notice how lightweight and small it is, about the same size in fact as just a generic or a typical headset you might wear for audio listening, although it does have a rather complicated array of buttons and controls for playing pause your music, answering rejecting calls, as well as an interesting protrusion on the bottom that reminds us of a fuse, something you don't find a lot on Bluetooth headsets. So you can see here that because of the lightweight form factor, Plantronics did omit a more sturdy padding or memory foam for the very top, which means that if you're listening to music for extended periods of time, let's say 5 or 6 hours on an end, it's not going to be the most comfortable experience in the world. However, this is helped by the overall light form factor, which makes it still quite bearable if you are traveling or constantly moving about. Otherwise, this isn't a noise-canceling pair of headphones, so there is still going to be a bit of sound in the background, ambient noise, but it does do a good job of overall blasting out a fair amount of volume when you're listening to your music. Taking a closer look at the design on the sides here, there's access to the company's logo. There's also one of the two interesting charging points, which you need to plug in for the charging to begin. On one side, there's access to the controls for answering or rejecting a call. The mics built onto this are as good as any Plantronics Bluetooth earpiece, which is to say it's top-notch, and there's noise cancellation for this part of this headset. So if you're talking in a noisier environment like an airport, people will still be able to hear your voice quite clearly. There's access to things like playing pause your music, as well as changing the volume up and down. It takes a little bit of time to get used to. I remember struggling a little bit at the time, but it is something that you'll get used to after a bit of practice, and also doubles as a power on-off switch. You can see here the hinge is quite flexible, can be rotated up to, I would say, 90 degrees, and everything can be folded down for easy transportation. The bottom also features a 3.5mm connectors in case you don't want to use that wireless feature and want to use it as a typical or traditional pair of headphones. Otherwise, the rim here also lights up. There is a blue and red LED which will illuminate when it is in the pairing mode and when you're trying to turn it on for the first time. And pairing it is quite simple. You just use your device's settings and it gets set up within a few seconds. I will say though that this is in the early days of Bluetooth, so it's Bluetooth almost, I would say, a 1.0 or 2.0, so the range is not as strong as it is today, and it gets disconnected more often if you are in a crowded place or environment. Otherwise, as far as audio quality went, the Pulsar 590A impressed us at the time, and the good thing about audio accessories is that it doesn't really change. Even though we've seen a lot of headphones and accessories since then, sound is one of those things that we enjoyed back then, we still enjoy now. It has a fair amount of bass, something that impressed us and surprised us for such a lightweight pair of headphones, and the audio performance was clean, it was crisp, and it did a nice job at different frequencies. Of course, it was best for listening to pop music, maybe a bit of electronic music, but even if for the occasional classical music, it does a decent job, even though obviously not a audiophile grade pair of headphones. So a decent all-rounder, I would say, especially from a company that is mainly known for making Bluetooth earpieces as opposed to headphones. So anyways, this has been a look back at the Pulsar 590A, one of the products that represents the earlier days of Plantronics, and the company has obviously evolved and gone a long way since then. This was before a product that you might see associated with, let's say, an iPod back in the early days, and also maybe some very early phones, but certainly not smartphones, and not a lot of devices back then had Bluetooth either built on board, unless you used a Windows mobile device, which was, again, quite clunky. But overall, the Pulsar 590A, a memorable headset in terms of the design, the lightweight form factor, and for the fact that Bluetooth headsets back then were still quite a novelty product category. You can check out more details about this in our original review, but this has been our retro look back. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Plantronics Pulsar 590.